Welcome to the Flora Sage Podcast, a place where we help you create a life you're excited about. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited for today's conversation. Oh my gosh, you guys are in for such a huge treat. This is Raina O'Dell, and I've discovered her earlier this year, and I was hooked. She is such a spitfire. She has so much energy, so much zest for life. Aww. And when we talk about on this podcast about aligning into your true and authentic self through little pivots, she is like the pivotal embodiment of that. And so, Raina,
you were like, I'm not even going to do an introduction. And here you are.
So for those of you who are just getting to know you, what would you like to share about yourself to get this conversation started?
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for that intro. What do I want people to know about myself? I am a mom of two. I am a divorced single mom of two. I have two girls. They are teenagers, 14 and 16, as we record this podcast. I have two fur babies that are my world outside of my children, of course. I have a golden retriever and a little Maltipoo, Dexter and Archie, who are just my everything. I work from home. I've been in the wellness space for about 10 years now, and I got my life coach certification 2 years ago, and I started doing life coaching in the realm of teaching people how to build routines and maintain consistency in those routines. So that is me in a nutshell. I live in Denver, Colorado. What else do you want to know? I can share. I mean, I can keep going. I have like my whole story I can share. I just feel like, I've got so much going on, I feel like, but that's, me in a nutshell.
I love it. Okay. So I'm sure a lot of people listening are like, wait a minute, you help people build consistency and routines? Because that's like, one of the things that I talk about in my book is about our habits and how when we create a habit, we actually have and use less energy in our brain when we create that habit. So then we have more energy to do those things that really matter. So have you always been somebody that's had like those consistent routines in your life, or is this something that you learned later on? Or
I think it's something that just slowly developed over time. I honestly think it probably started 10 years ago when I started my wellness business. I was in like the fitness, the nutrition side of things. Mm-hmm. And prior to that, I don't even remember what life is like. Isn't that how trauma works? Where you're like, I don't remember anything prior to like feeling good. Like I don't remember ever having a routine. I never stepped foot in a gym. If I did, it was so that I could use the childcare for some reason to like take a breath, right? Like I was not into fitness or into anything or wellness or I, worked outside of the home. I worked at a children's hospital for years. I then worked like in the space of doing like life insurance physicals for people. Like I went to people's house and collected blood and pee so that they could like get approved for life insurance. Like that was my life. But I remember coming home from work and crashing, and then TV with my husband at the time. And just, I didn't have a routine that made me feel good until I started being consistent with my wellness routine, which is kind of an interesting thing because I went into the life coaching side of things because I found myself frustrated with the wellness side, because it was like you said, I'm trying to teach. I'm like, here's a habit for you, but people couldn't figure out how to maintain consistency in that habit, right? Like I was like, here's a workout plan, do this every day. And the everyday thing or the consistency thing tends to get in the way with people. So I was like, okay, how can I teach people how to find these habits that they want to be more consistent in, but also keep doing those things that feel good because they make us feel good. I think often we let like life pivots, like divorce or illness or moving or whatever it is, kind of completely and totally derail us. And so that's when I realized, like I was married. I then got a divorce. I then got really sick. I then had surgeries. I then moved out of that house. I then started dating and then moved again. And I maintained consistency in my routine that made me feel good through all of it. Like
Yeah.
Zero excuses, zero anything got in the way of me doing what felt good. And I would get messages constantly from people on Instagram being like, how did you stay so consistent in your routine during this? How did you maintain this during this life pivot? And I'm like, I feel fucking fantastic when I do these things. So why would I not do them? Right. And that was like, it was almost a no-brainer. And I feel like imposter syndrome comes in for me because I'm like literally teaching people how to do this, but I'm like, it's just, you just do it, right? Like it's for me just such a no-brainer.
Right.
But I realized through conversations and working people with one-on-one that it's not a no-brainer. These are like skills that maybe came a little easier to me that aren't so easy for other people to identify what makes you feel good, pivot when life throws shit your way, and then keep going in that routine, you know?
Yeah. Well,
Does any of that makes sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I'm a coach myself. I've been doing this for a long ass time, like 2 decades. Yeah. And I hired you as a coach.
Yeah.
I was in a transitional space where I just needed somebody that I totally vibe with their energy to be like, just tell me what to do. Because right now I'm in a transitional space where I feel like I know what to do, but I don't know why the hell I'm not doing it. And I needed an outside someone to say, okay, this is what I see. And it's like,
yeah,
okay.
Here's the problem, fix that. And then X, Y, and Z falls into place. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Cause that's the thing that I hear most from people is I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. I'm just not doing it. And you don't know why. It's like food. Like I made that reel once on Instagram being like, I'm not going to share my food pictures all the time. You don't need to know what my meal plan is. You know what to eat. You're just not doing it. Why? You know what I mean?
Yep.
So yeah, people just get stuck up here. And I think half of the work that I do is like figuring out what you've got going on and being like, that is where you need to shift and then clear that shit out of the way and then move on, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I talk about in my book is most people won't make a change until they hit rock bottom or they get a diagnosis or something. And in order to really, truly create that lasting change, you have to know what phase of life you're in, what your priorities are, and where you're going. Like, where do you want to go? So share with us, if you will, the pivotal moment where you went from no routine, no consistency to all of a sudden kind of hitting that wall or that breaking point of saying, okay, enough is a freaking enough. Like, I need to start doing this every day. And then from there you added on, but share with us that pivotal moment where you knew that you had to start doing something consistently.
I think there was one pivotal moment. I think that like, if I were to go back to like the very maybe step one day that I realized what I needed to do, it was like, I struggled. Like I had children at 18. I had my first child at 18. My next one came 19 months later. I was married in between those two children to a drug addict and alcoholic and sexaholic and holic of all the things, master manipulator, like the worst person in the world in my eyes. And I was married to him for 10 years. And through that, I struggled with anxiety. I struggled with depression. I struggled with eating disorders of every kind, from anorexia to bulimia to all of the things. And my rock bottom where I was like, I need something, period, was when I started my wellness business. But it wasn't even a business for me in the beginning. I needed that accountability and that support, kind of like you did. I was like, I know I need to work out. I know I need to eat healthy. I have no idea where to start. I can Google and 100 different things pop up. I want something that I enjoy. So I literally stumbled on this person on social media who was like, here's a plan for you. I started doing Beachbody. I started doing all of the programs and things like that. And I was like, in that moment, I needed something dramatically different than what I was doing so that I could almost become obsessed with this new thing. I just needed an addiction for a while. You know what I mean? I needed something that made me feel better than what I was doing. And it wasn't going to be drugs because I saw what that was doing. It wasn't going to be alcohol. It wasn't going to be any of these things that people tend to kind of sink their teeth into. For me, it was wellness. It needed to be something that made me feel different than what I was feeling before.
Yeah. Well, and the beautiful thing about that is because I've been married and divorced 3 times. I feel you. I hear you. I know. Like when you have those types of relationships, you sometimes numb out because you build up walls and you almost don't feel anything. And the thing with working out and exercising, well, and even having that routine of that is all those endorphins, all of that like feel good energy. You're like, yes. And then the consistency of doing that every single day.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but it almost gives you hope. It's like do it and you're like, yeah, I totally have goosebumps like all over because it's like when you are in the thick of life, or even just kind of in my, you know, where I was like not really in the thick of it, I was just in that transitional space.
Yeah.
Well, shit, now what do I do? Because I wanted to downsize for so long. It's like, okay, now what? You know?
Yeah.
And to create that little habit or doing that little thing one day and then doing it the next day and the next day, you do start to feel different. You start to feel that hope. You start to feel that excitement. You start to feel alive again in different ways than you have in the past. Not that the past was good, bad, or indifferent or whatever, but it's just, it's a little bit of a pivot, a little bit of a shift. And all of a sudden, that version of yourself, that dream version of yourself that you know that you want and you're trying to reach for, now becomes a little bit more attainable. And you're like, oh, I can do that. And then you do it again, and then you do it again, and you do it again.
Well, I don't even remember prior to like that wellness bit. Like I grew up in the smallest of small towns. Like, come at me if you think your town was smaller than mine, because it probably wasn't. Like the smallest of towns. So that like vision on that big picture and that dreaming, and I get to do this and I get to do that was literally non-existent in my life until I started that business. Because I was like pregnant at 18. I was like, here we go. I'm the statistic from this small town, married to the addict. Like it was literally checking every box of like small town girl, what happens to her, right? Is what I kept telling. That's the story I kept telling myself. And so once I started that wellness business and started my wellness journey, I was like, okay, I am starting to feel good. What if I got a 6-pack? Like, what would happen if I got like hot? You know what I mean? And then I started like thinking, and then it was like, I started turning that into a business, and then I started making money. And I was like, what if I made money doing this? What if this, you know what I mean? And then it like, and then I traveled for the first time outside of my honeymoon for this trip with that job. And I was just like, I get to travel now. Like, holy shit, what, like, and then I went to California during that trip, and I was like, what would it be like if I moved to I want to move to California. And I literally like set every vision from that moment forward was like, what if I could do X, Y, and Z? I literally moved my family to California within 2 years. Like it was amazing. I'm not there anymore. Wah, wah. But that vision, like it only took a little shift for me to be like, what would it feel? Holy crap, that would feel cool. Like that would feel awesome. Right. But it needed to be this dramatic shift so that I could actually allow myself to create that vision, because I don't think that's normal for most people. I don't think dreaming big and casting a vision for what your highest self could possibly do is a normal thing.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Because we're taught to think small. We're taught to not be prideful or boastful or
stay safe.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Staying in one spot is safe. And it's like, oh my goodness, you know? And and I think that consistency, like you said, just really opened your eyes to possibility of what could happen and opportunity, like possibly, oh my gosh, when you all of a sudden realize you have opportunities where you didn't see them before. Your whole world cracks open. So
everything.
You hit top 10 and that's like the creme de la creme of that company is like, oh, you know, and it's like, so we go through these cycles of being at rock bottom and pulling ourselves up and reaching that top 10 or that pinnacle. And then you go back down and say, okay, is that it? Like what else? And what else is possible? And, you know, one of the things that I heard you say was that you were kind of frustrated with the wellness thing and you really wanted to go deeper in helping your clients that were coming to you because they were like, okay, yeah, this workout thing is fine, but I have all this other stuff that I really need help with being consistent and really figuring out what that looks like. And because people can be consistent in doing something that is not for their highest good, that is not, that's not going to get them to that vision or that dream. And I know that that's one of the things that you help people do is you help them figure out what they want and then create that routine around that. So share with us kind of, I don't want to say your rock bottom, but after you hit that high of being that top 10 and then all of a sudden Well,
the
shit.
crash.
Right. It's like, really?
The crash.
That's it? Like,
Yeah.
what?
Well, that's it. Like I had in my vision as I was like down here crawling to the top, there was nothing in me that was like, well, what's going to happen after I hit all these things? Right. I was just like, go, 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 go. And then I did it. And then as I was doing it, I filed for divorce and got sick. And so I kind of took my foot off the gas, making that a priority. And I kind of let that just like coast for a little while.
Mhm.
In that coasting, I realized that like, why did I push that hard? Why did I do all those things? Why did I sacrifice all of this for it? But it got me where I am today. So I don't regret it in any way, shape, or form. But there is this, like, we have put these things on a pedestal that we think are going to be absolutely life changing.
Wow.
And they are for the moment. And you get that recognition and you get that like on stage recognition and all that kind of stuff. And that, yay, she did it, Raina O'Dell. Oh my God. And then you're like, you come home and you're in your bubble and you're like, well, guess I'm going to go pick up dog poop. Right? Like nobody's here to do it for you. Like it doesn't change your day that much. And I think it was then that I was like, okay, I have to fall in love with my every single day, because that vision is just, that's going to be a thing I get to, and then it's over. And then it's like, what's my next vision? Like there has to be something after all of that. And so I started at that point creating these like 2 to 3 year visions of like, okay, in the next 2 to 3 years, what do I want to accomplish? And more specifically, what do I want my day to look like? It's never since been this, I'm going to hit that and then period, right? It's in 2 to 3 years, what do I want my day to look and feel like? Not even look like, but feel like, right?
I love that. Yeah.
It literally changed everything for me, because I realized like my business is on social media as yours is. Like once we shut that app, it's like crickets. Right? We're alone in our home again. Nothing outside of our bubble matters really. So I wanted to make sure that I was in love with my day every single day, and it wasn't tied to social media, and it wasn't tied to recognition from an outside source. It wasn't anything outside of me. Right. What was your original question? I'm like, I don't even actually remember where I was going with that.
We were kind of talking about like the vision beyond the vision. It's just like, because most people just have that one vision and that one pinnacle of this is what I'm working towards. But all of a sudden now you get to the bottom and you're just like scratching your head going, okay, now what? Like now what should I do? And I love that you mentioned in your answer was that, how do I want to feel? You know, so I've got this vision, but I love that you tied that into the vision beyond the vision. And that's what, one of the things that I always tout to, like my people is, hey, don't just have that goal, have the goal beyond that goal. Like, okay, once you do this, then what? Then what? Then what?
Because like I almost went to like tell you about my like vision board, and I've got like an oceanfront house and a piggy bank with cash all around it representing savings. And I've got a horse and a Ford Bronco and like a chicken coop and all the things, right? But once I buy that car, it's like that is period. It's done, right? Like it's not going to be an existing feeling that continues every single day. Those are like little things that are just check marks, right? But I look at that big picture and I'm like, how is that going to make me feel? Imagine myself in that day feeding my chickens, going to play with my horse, sitting in my living room, doing whatever with my ocean view, right? Like in that moment, the feeling is different than the actual like check mark of I got the car or I got the horse or I got the whatever, right? Yep. So I think that vision, like it's one thing to kind of say, these are the things I want and these are the things that I want to accomplish, but deeper, it's how do you want to feel? And then like you teach, like, what do I want that beautiful in between to look like? Like I'm here and I know I'm going here. What are the things I want to do on my daily basis, in that daily basis, to feel good as I make my way towards that vision?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I love that you talked about the feeling of the I'm going to go feed my chickens now and I'm going to go do this and I'm going to go do that, because it's like we have that vision and then we have like where we are. So it's like, where are you? Where do you want to be? And it's kind of that beautiful, messy middle and that beautiful journey on the way to get there. And I love that you tied in the feeling of that, because that's the thing. It's like you either are feeling that or you're not.
Well, I look at that and I'm like, I literally just edited a module in my course that was like, if your vision doesn't, like, if you can't feel that in your depths and step into that and feel how good that's going to feel and how peaceful that's going to make you and how much of a smile that's going to put on your face, you're not crystal clear enough. Like,
Right.
it's not just the horse or the car and the this and the that and then this. It's like, in that moment, put yourself in that day. And I actually I'm like, journal out, like, immerse yourself like you're in that day. What's it feel like? How do you wake up in the morning? What's the energy you carry? Like,
Uh-huh.
I think those things, that's what helps us maintain consistency in the habits, when we know what it's going to feel like to our
Yes.
core and our core. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So explain to someone, and I know that you cover this, I'm sure you cover this in some module, but
About to give all my stuff away for free here in this podcast. No.
but share with our listeners / watchers, what do you recommend when they feel it and they're doing the visualizations, they've got the vision board and they know what they want to feel, and they get little tiny glimpses of that every day. I mean, maybe just like split second moments where they're like, but then all of a sudden that like, connection breaks off and they're like, ugh, but I'm not there yet. What do you recommend to our viewers / listeners to help them get started with a consistent routine to help them take one baby step in front of the other to get those feelings and to ultimately get that life that they're dreaming about?
Yeah. I mean, as soon as you said but I'm not there yet, I would go, what's the rush?
Oh, yes. I know that was one of the things that we worked on together.
I think I probably told you that. What's the rush?
That was
and
like
I think I say that to everybody. Yeah. Like, but what's the rush? Like, that's what I would say. I'm like, you see it, you feel it, you know it's coming, you know it's a 2 to 3 year vision.
Mm-hmm.
Let it take 2 to 3 years. You don't have to like have these habits and all of these things and need to be this. It's like I'm like, okay, where does it suck right now? Like, maybe your mornings are so rushed, you suck at snoozing, right? Like, you get up and you like, I'm rushed and this and that. Let's start on our mornings. Like, start with your morning routine. It doesn't matter what off work and all of that looks like in the evening, but if mornings feel right now, start there. Like, what's one thing you can do, your 1 degree shift? What's one thing you can do tomorrow morning to feel a little bit better? And I'm a huge fan of visualization. I would challenge you, before you even make a change, to like journal out what your dream morning looks like, right? Like, me and you, we did this magic wand situation. Yes. And I'm like, in your perfect world, your husband still exists, your kids still wake up at 5 a.m. Like, what would your morning look like if you had your way? Yeah. And you journal on that. And it's this mini vision, right? It's like your mini 2 to 3 year, but it's like your mini right now. What would my dream morning look like? Uh-huh. Write it out and you immerse yourself in it. And then you pick the one thing that you can do tomorrow. Maybe, and I know people like, God, people just wake up and they grab their phones. Yes. That's a big thing. Or they go to bed and they're on their phone and then they're like, I can't wake up on time because what does your evening routine look like then? Like, maybe you need to start in the evening. Like, take the time. What's the rush? Take the time to figure out what little shifts need to be made, Well,
and I love that you said just journal out what that looks like. And the beautiful thing about that is when you journal it out, it's like, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to get dressed. I'm going to feed my dog. And then I'm going to go for a long meandering walk. And then I'm going to come back and then I'm going to eat and I'm going to have coffee on my porch. And then I'm going to sit and journal and like that. And then I'm going to maybe work out or do some yoga or whatever. And it's like, wait a minute, that's actually not going to take you that long. Could you do that now? And I love that you're like, I've got a module for that. Yes.
I got a module for that.
Yes, I will show you how to do that. I
yes,
love
you
that.
Can.
Yes. Well, and the thing is a lot of the times we don't do that journaling work. This is baby kitty.
Yeah, baby kitty.
Sometimes we don't do that journaling work because it feels like overwhelming because we have all these things. But the beautiful thing, I love that you gave me that journal prompt. What's the hurry? And I resisted doing it. I waited like 4 days, I think. And I'm like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to set my timer and just, then I was like, wait a minute. I know. And things just poured and poured and poured out. And I was like, and I literally felt that rushed feeling just melt away. I'm like, oh, well, there you go.
Oh, I do have time to do the things that I want to do if I get out of my head and allow myself to do them.
Yes, I love it. And I love that. I love when working with you, how practical and how matter of fact you are, but how simple and profound you are, because
oh, well, thank you.
I mean, and that's a rarity with coaches, is finding someone who can simplify things and go, try that, and that maybe, I mean, because I'm a simplification coach. And so I'm like, maybe that's why I just love you and your energy so much. Cause I'm like, yes.
Simple.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you don't have any fluff. I love that you literally, tell it how it is with tact, but directly, and challenge the ego, challenge that story that we're telling ourselves, or that we learned from the small town naysayers and the people that are in our world that many times keep us stuck or feeling like we're stuck and that we don't have any options. So,
I think I probably lost some relationships because of that trait that I have of I don't know. I have zero, how do I say it? Excuses are annoying to me. You know what I mean? And it's people constantly will have a story. Well, I can't do this because I have this, or because I have that, or because I grew up like this, or because my thought so, and I'm like, no. I check every statistic box. I grew up in a small town. I had no money, literally $0. I married somebody when I was 18. I had 2 kids out of wedlock, right? I've sinned in every way, shape, or form possible. My husband was an addict. We filed for bankruptcy before I started all my businesses. I literally am such a statistic where I could also say, but this, but I have that, but I struggle with this, but I'm sick, but I have this, but I have the kids, but and I choose not to, instead of the, stories that I could cling on to, and the beliefs and the wired traumas and all of these things that I could cling on to as an excuse to not be consistent or to let myself go in some way, shape, or form. I choose to hold on to the belief that I can literally do whatever the hell I want. I can literally live any life that I want to live. I can literally wake up and do the things that make me feel good, even though X, Y, and Z was my past, even though my current reality is I literally had a journaling session the other day where I was in this headspace of realizing all the things that people tend to complain about, right? I don't have family support. I don't have friends or a support system close to me. I am not where I want to be in my relationship. Kids, whatever. Me too. My family lives 2 states away. My best friends live in Canada. I am a single parent to 2 teenage girls that. I'm just oh my God, someone pray for me. But and I don't get child support. I don't get any, I am doing it's only me. Right. And that's the title of my website, is It's Just You, because I was you have everything you need to be successful, define what successful means, to live a life that you want to live. Everything you need is inside of you. You just have to get quiet enough and patient enough and silent enough to listen and uncover what that is, and figure out how to implement it, and figure out what you need on a daily basis to show up as the best version of you possible. Because there's always going to be shit. Someone's always going to be sick. There's always going to be a death. There's always going to be a move or a relationship or a kid or something, right?
Yeah.
Getting quiet and figuring out what you need in that moment every single day, I feel is the key, the secret sauce.
Yeah, because every day it's a little bit different. Every day your energy is high or low or kind of medium. How did you sleep? What did you eat the day before? Oh, I ate noodles the other day for the first time in a long time. I felt like shit. I slept like shit. I'm I threw them away. I'm I don't even care how much I paid for these. They're going in the trash. And just recognizing that I would rather throw away $10 worth of noodles than feel like shit for 3 days when I eat the leftovers. Okay. So I love this conversation. Okay. So what would you say to someone, and I'm sure you have a module for this, But
Probably.
what would you say to someone who identifies with checking all the boxes and identifies with all this shit and says, yeah, but you're different, or that feel like that maybe they don't have it in them. They know they have the desire, they have the longing. They're like, oh, I really desperately want this change, and they have this doubt. And again, those doubts, those things that people tell us can cripple us sometimes. So what would you tell that person listening that is in that space of they're so desperate for change, but they have that big but? Well, yeah, she did it, but
I would literally get on the phone with you face to face and be like, but what? But what? You know what I mean? And I would say anything that comes up, write on it. I think journaling has been the most powerful tool for me. So if there's a but I have this, then write that down. Mm-hmm. And if I can't even think of an example of a but that isn't something I would personally be able to be like, well, I did it. Why can't you? You know what I mean? Like, I really can't. Any doubts that come up, write them down on paper. If it's I couldn't because why? Yeah. Like, there's no because I can think of that literally. And I think that's why I loved my one-on-one coaching so much, is because I could get that but face to face and be like, you're wrong. Actually, you can. And here's why. Right. So DM the podcast, DM us, both of us on Instagram, give me your butts, because I literally have no idea what a butt would be that I wouldn't be able to find a solution for. Yeah. And I do believe that any butts that come up for any person, the solution is found on paper. When you get your ego out of the way and you let yourself release that story, mm-hmm. and identify the truth in that. That's one of the modules that I walk you through, is like, what are all of those belief systems that you have, the doubts, the fears, the what ifs, all of those things, write them out and then write the truth next to them, because all of those things are just stories that we're clinging on to because they're keeping us safe. But people are so afraid to like make that change because it's like the fear of unknown and fear of all of these things. Yeah. And getting uncomfortable. And what if I fail? And what if all of these things? But I challenge every single person I talk to like, look at the fucking state you're in right now. Where are you at? Where you're at now is more uncomfortable, more fear-based, more worry filled, more anxiety filled, more everything than where you could be going. Yes. They're choosing to stay in that space, but why? Write it down. That's what I would say.
Exactly. Well, and one of the things that I've talked about here on the podcast is every time you tell a story, think of every story that you have from your past, including your present, as a balloon that's not inflated. And every time you retell that story, you're blowing up that balloon, you're reanimating it, you're giving that story new life. Yeah. Stop telling the story, stop blowing up the damn balloon. Yeah. Seriously. But so I've got this little short story that I want to share. So I talk about this frequently in some of my courses, but okay. So there was two brothers. They grow up with an alcoholic mom and a very abusive dad. Okay. So fast forward 20 years, they reach out to the first brother, and they're twins. Okay. Same age, same experiences with the alcoholic mom, abusive dad. So the first brother, he's very, very successful, lives just fabulous life, super positive, super like, oh my gosh, he's just amazing. All of those dream boxes checked. Okay. The other brother, he is an alcoholic, homeless, really just down and out. And they asked each brother the same question: why are you the way that you are? And they both gave the exact same answer. Because my mom was an alcoholic and my dad was abusive. Yeah. So we can choose to turn around our stories by how our mindset and owning our power and owning that little spark inside of us that still is alive. That's that little ember that's still glowing. as long as we're alive, we have that little ember. We have that
Yep.
little flame inside of us. And the beautiful thing is when you find people like Raina to usher you into this new version and this new iteration of yourself through her program or, other programs like that, what happens is all of a sudden you start to pull away these old stories that are clogging your oxygen from your spark. And all of a sudden you start to burn brighter. You start to feel more optimistic. You start to feel more excited about life. You start to get that little glimmer of hope, whether that is journaling every day. And if you don't feel safe at home to journal, there's online journals with passwords. So there's even apps that you can, password protect where you can journal inside of the app. So allowing yourself to really recognize that there are people out there that are willing to support you, that are willing to help you fan the flame of your future. But you've got to give yourself permission to recognize that you are meant for more than where you are at. And where you're at, where you've been is valid, even though it sucks. And even though you feel like maybe you're in a cage or maybe right now you're feeling pretty good, but you know that you want more. You want to feel that fuller expression of life. This is your opportunity to do it. Like, this is your opportunity to just recognize, okay, what stories are keeping me stuck and how can I look at them differently, just like those two brothers. How can I look at the same truth, but pivot how I'm looking at it?
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. Huge. I have a brother who just got out of prison. He's probably not going to listen to this podcast. No offense, but he's not your target audience.
Not my target audience.
But my dad just came to town and I just had lots of conversation with him about that exactly. Cause my parents divorced when I was super young and they did their thing and it's a big, long story and I need to go into it, but I am who I am today and live the life I live today. And my brother just got out of prison and is currently on medication to get off of all of these drugs that he was on and was dealing guns. I mean, just a nightmare. And I look at my dad and I'm just and he kind of is in this situation of how did we raise both of you the same? Literally went through these exact same things and we're on polar opposite ends of the spectrum. Right. And I'm just I think I told him, I was it's because I got out and he didn't. And that was my response to him. But my got out was out of the mindset, out of the space, at the environment, the thoughts, the beliefs, the everything. And he didn't. He was stuck in this situation where it's I love that story. I love that you shared that because I was that's me and my brother.
Yep.
That's me and my brother. But that's probably a lot of people listening too. You know what I mean? There's probably a lot of people that relate to that in a way where you do. I don't know. I was on a walk with one of my friends the other day. I said both my friends are in Canada, but I have a couple other friends. I was on a walk with my friend the other day and we were just walking and she was talking about what she was doing, going through. And I just looked at her and I was I just recently realized that we can actually do whatever we want. We're adults and we literally can make choices and we could literally sell everything and go travel if we wanted to. We could literally pick up a new job and the possibilities are in every single thing in our life is just a choice that we get to make.
Yeah.
And some people aren't looking at it those are choices. They're looking at it those are things that are not on the plate for them or on their plate. Does that make sense?
Yep.
That's not for me. That's untouchable. That's not possible. That's whatever. And as soon as you get those thoughts out of the way and then allow yourself to daydream of what do I want? What would I like life to look like? There's a whole world outside of Missouri that I didn't even know existed until I was 27.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There is a whole world out there where you are literally able to do whatever you want with this life you're given. And I think the people that are in that stuck headspace just gotta force yourself out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've been alluding to this program of yours for the entire podcast, and I'm sure people are just chomping at the bit and going, what are you talking about?
What's the module?
I know. So So share with us your program that you are launching, and that, for many of you listening to this has already launched. But yeah, share with our listeners about your program and all that jazz, because I am so excited for it.
Thank you. I am too. I'm like nervous plus excited plus all of the things. It launches on 11/11, so that might be today, that might be tomorrow, that might be already done. I don't know where we are when you're hearing this, but I created this course basically because I fell in love with my one-on-one coaching. I started my one-on-one coaching almost 2 years ago now, and meeting people like you and having people come to me and be like, oh my God, this changed everything. And like, yay, like it makes me so happy. And I could sit and talk forever to every single client that I've had, but I realized that I only have so many hours in the day that I want to work, because my perfect day does not look like being on one-on-one calls every single day, 24/7, right? So my eyes were open to this possibility of like creating a course where I could teach people what I did in my one-on-one coaching. And so I put together a 15 module course, and a module is like a little bundle of videos to answer questions if you're like, what's a module? 15 module course where I am walking people through basically everything I teach in my one-on-ones, plus some, from what do you want your life to look like? Where are you now? What's getting in the way? What are the roadblocks that might come up? What are the thought processes you need to kind of cling on to? Like, what does your current routine look like? We do this gap finder journal that we did. We do the life wheel that we did. We did like every single thing. I walk through my actual like planner and how to like create a routine and create a vision and how to clear your spaces and set up your environment so that you can thrive in this routine. And I mean, it's 15 modules, almost, I think it's over 50 videos that I've recorded and edited and uploaded to kind of guide people from stuck to wherever they want to be.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like.
This.
So,
oh my gosh. Well, and
yeah.
I love, oh my gosh. Okay. I'm sorry. I've got like so many things I want to say.
It is a jam-packed course, and I'm like,
yes.
Yeah, it's jam-packed.
And I love that you have a module for every excuse.
Yeah.
For every excuse.
Really, you're like, got it covered.
But you're like, I have a module for that.
But it's because I've been on so many, like, I think doing all the one-on-one calls have really helped me to kind of create this, because in my head, I'm like, oh, Tiffany told me that 2 weeks ago. Like, put that in the course. You know what I mean? Like, I can literally take everything that I've helped everyone with and be like, I know I've talked to so many people. Like I have a lawyer, I have a, guy in Kuwait, I have you who's an entrepreneur. Like I have stay-at-home moms who are just like, I just want to read in the morning by myself. But like, I have every kind of client I've ever like that even exists, I feel like. And I've been able to take all of those experiences and all of those conversations and put them into course form to really just squash all the buts, right? Like all of the, but I've got a module for that.
Yes, I love it. And I love that you also have an add-on that is for journaling, because not everybody, like I didn't feel safe for a long time to journal, because when I journaled, my first husband found my journal, read it, and got really pissed about it. And I was like, so I didn't feel safe to journal.
And that's why he's your ex-husband.
Exactly. Yes. So
I had a client, I had somebody message me something about like, I posted it on Instagram about like, she wants to have this morning routine, but she loves her boyfriend time. And she was wondering if the course like would make her separate from her boyfriend or anything. And I go, you can keep your boyfriend, you can create the routine that you like. I have a module for that. And then I had a previous one-on-one client who messaged and was like, well, unless the boyfriend needs to go like mine did. And I was like, yes. So like husbands may need to exit. Like, I can't control what kind of decisions people make, but it's like, it's so funny to just like, I hear that all the time. They're like, I'm scared to journal because I don't want my X, Y, and Z to see. And I'm like, first of all, there should be no one in your bubble that you are like fearful of reading that stuff.
Yes.
Step one.
Yep.
If that's the situation, we probably need to go back to module whatever to reevaluate who's in your space and who you need in your personal bubble. But I also made a reel the other day. I was like, burn it. If you need to write a page and then go put it in the fireplace, go put it in the fireplace.
Yes.
But I love the apps. I love all that stuff too. But yeah, journaling is an option. This is like my rough draft. This is not the final of it, but this is the journal that I'm kind of releasing. It's like a hardcover, and I've got like this instructions on the back, and the inside is super just empty and blank and whatever. So yeah, I love it too. I'm like, I cannot wait for people to get their hands on it, because I don't know, like I love prompted journals, and I give hundreds of journaling prompts throughout my course, but I also feel like if you've made it through the course and you're in this space of just wanting journaling to become this habit, I hate prompted journals, because I want you to, in that space, be like, what do I need today? What's on my mind today? Where do I need to go today? What do I need to release today? Instead of like, what are 5 things that you wish you, and I'm like, oh my God, okay. You don't need that every single day, right? So
exactly. Well, yeah. Yeah. Well, and one of the things as you're journaling and as you are doing the modules and going through the little steps and the little shifts, things will fall away. And sometimes it's all those journals that you've collected that has all those journaling prompts that you're like, no, I'm good. I don't need those anymore. Because sometimes like we buy all the stacks of journals and then they're just like glaring at us on the shelf that make us feel like shit. And I've
purchased all the journals too.
Yes.
I'm like, I've gotten like I have a 2022 affirmation thing. And I'm like, I did like 3 pages because I'm like, okay, this is great. And it's beautiful. And it's so pretty. And I spent like $60 on it, but it's not what I needed. Right? Like I didn't need anything other than to just get my shit out of my thoughts, like get the thoughts out and on paper, and where is this coming from? And why does this keep popping up? And that kind of stuff, Yeah.
And I love that you teach that in your course. I love that you teach that in your journaling bonus, or not bonus, but add-on.
Yeah.
I love that. So
thank you.
Share with all of our listeners how they can enroll in the program, how they can work with you privately. I know that your private sessions are paused for a moment until January, but share with us how we can enroll, how we can find you online, all that jazz.
My Instagram is probably where I am the most, and it's at it's.just.Raina. I'm sure there's a show note for that. We'll have like,
yes, there is.
You'll share that. It's just Raina, periods in between.
Yep.
Yes. And then my website is itsjustyoublueprint.com/intentionally-unstuck is the link for you'll have all the links, but it's just youblueprint.com. It's just Raina on Instagram. That's really it. All my stuff is linked in all of those platforms. So
yay, awesome. Okay. So what would you share with someone who is on the fence, they're craving change? Like for myself, like I was like, I know this shit. I teach this. I've written books, like hello, but I knew I'm like, I just need somebody to point out the obvious, where for me, I can't see it. Like if it's one of those, if it was a snake, it would have bit me.
Yeah.
So share with our listeners, if they're on the fence about, like, they know that they want a change, they know that they need a routine and they need to be consistent, even with just one thing. Share with our listeners, one piece of advice that you would give them about either, joining your course, or if right now, maybe they're just not in that space where maybe they can financially afford it, or maybe, whatever. Share with us one thing that you would recommend that they do.
Right. Journal, period. Two sides of that. One, people that are on the fence with my course and are unsure about the investment. Like I had somebody that was like, I've done these things before and I've paid for these things before. And I'm like, okay, well, you didn't obviously follow through with the things before, or you didn't implement the things before. What would happen if you just did what you said you were going to do? What would happen if you just invested, you followed the modules, you did what I said, you listened to Raina, you journaled the way you needed to journal? Imagine you followed through with this course. What would life look like? Like, how would that feel? Right? Like putting yourself in that spot. If financially that's not the case, or if courses aren't your thing and whatever, then create that vision. Write out what that day needs to look like or what you want it to look like and feel like, and then pick one thing and one piece of your day, right? Like we talk about bookends of your routine all the time, like a morning or an evening routine, like pick one and then just pick 1% shift that you want to make and do that thing. And if you don't do that thing, you write the next day, why didn't I do that thing?
Mm-hmm.
And you answer the question and you get out of your own way. I think we're just so stuck in this chaotic, noisy thought loop that it just needs to be broken. We just need to break the cycle. And what if I just did what I said I was going to do? What would that feel like?
Yep. Yeah. Well, and it's proven you actually burn through more blood glucose when you don't do something and you keep putting it off versus when you do it. So you actually have more energy when you actually
love that.
Yeah. And it's like, oh my gosh. Well, and I felt like I really wasn't a journaler. I'm like, well, I'm not a journaler yet.
Yeah.
Whatever. The way that you teach journaling, it makes it easy.
Yeah.
It makes it so easy to journal. I'm like,
good.
I have like 3 journals now.
I love that.
Each one. Yes. I'm like, wow. And I was not somebody that identified as a journaler. And so it's like, you know, and I love that you have a payment plan, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. This is fun.
Yeah, this is good.
Fun.
It's my pleasure. All right, everyone. Thank you so very much for listening and watching today's podcast episode. All of the links mentioned are in the show notes. So go to Instagram, follow her. Her stories are top notch. I just
thank you.
You're the first story that I watch every single day.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
It's so motivational. It's so good. So thank you so much. Thank you all for being here, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.